What if I told you that Napoleon was never actually exiled to St. Helena? Or that Romans used to brush their teeth with piss? You wouldn't believe me, right? But if you stick around to the end, I promise you I'll change your mind or at least tell you some insane stories from our history that you probably never heard before. It's really up to you to decide. Without further ado. Number 1. The Dead Pope in Court. To kick things off, we have a truly insane story that took place in the Vatican. Trust me, when I say Dead Pope in Court, I mean it. The year was 897 when the Vatican saw one of the most bizarre episodes in history. The corpse of a pope was put on trial by his living successor. Pope Formosus, dead for a few months, was hardly qualified to defend himself in a court of law. Nonetheless, Pope Stephen VI had the body disinterred, dressed in its ecclesiastical robes, and propped up on the papal throne to stand trial. He even appointed a deacon to speak on the corpse's behalf. You're probably thinking, why the hell did he even do this in the first place? To keep it short, Formosus made friends with the wrong people and wanted to put his allies in a powerful position within the Roman government. Before he could put everything in its place, Formosus died, leaving a huge dispute within Rome. Unfortunately for his body, the successor to the throne was Pope Stephen VI. His allies were the people who directly opposed the ones Formosus appointed. So Stephen aimed to discredit him, along with every decision he ever made as pope, and put his people into the very same positions. And what does one do in such an ordeal? He digs up his predecessor's body, dresses it up in papal garments, puts it on the stand, and tries it, obviously. Formosus didn't defend himself too well, and was found guilty of usurping the papacy. His body was thrown in the Tiber River, a tradition dedicated to the most heinous of criminals from that time. Do you think Pope Stephen went too far with this? Comment down below as we continue. Number 2. The U.S. poisoning booze. We all enjoy having a few drinks and kicking back after a long day at work. Or hitting the town with our friend group on the weekend, knowing we're going to have to carry that one guy back to his home. Alcohol, although a poison itself, is a major part of everyday human life, for better or worse. So imagine the cruel mind that comes up with a deliberate plan to poison something already poisonous. That's exactly what happened in America during the Prohibition days. In the government's defense, the whole idea behind this plot was to discourage and eventually stop its citizens from drinking, but the means to achieve this result were all but humane. They first asked politely, but the American citizens basically didn't give two about the fact that their government didn't want them to indulge in boozing, so what did the almighty higher-ups do? They established federal guidelines that required companies to put extremely dangerous chemicals, such as kerosene and gasoline, just to name a few lighter ones, into already dangerous enough substances to drink. As a result of this, Americans started experiencing very bad side effects from drinking. Many reports stated that people suddenly went blind because of this, and eventually, people started dying. The death toll of the Prohibition booze poisoning is estimated to be anywhere between a couple of 100 and 10,000. This horrific idea made no difference whatsoever when it comes to alcohol consumption. The only impact it had was in the lives lost during its time. Luckily for us, booze poisoning is not a thing anymore, but still, make sure to drink responsibly. Number 3. Roman urine tax. The Roman Empire was just as weird as it was mighty. There are countless stories about some weird, gruesome, funny, and downright gross things that went on over there. But one stands out more than the rest of them. Romans looked at urine in a rather different way than we do today. They saw it as an extremely valuable resource, usable in many ways, completely opposite to the way we just flush it down the toilet without giving it a thought. The Romans used urine to wash their clothes, brush their teeth, and clean their leather. The Roman government ordered for clay pots to be installed all across their cities, so that the citizens could relieve themselves, and their urine could be collected. With so much urine flowing through the market, Emperor Nero felt obliged to keep a percentage of the liquid gold to himself. Or should I say gold liquid? You get it? Anyways, so he implemented the infamous urine tax. Guards were stationed outside of public toilets. From the lowest of the lower class to the highest ups, every Roman citizen had to pay their dues to the government. This story grossed me out as well, so I think it's time to move on to the next one. I won't even ask you if you think this is justifiable, but I would love to hear your opinion in the comments. Number 4. Napoleon's lookalike. I'll admit, this story is more of a myth, but I just had to put it in here because it's too good to be left out. We all know how Napoleon met his demise, right? He lost the Battle of Waterloo and was exiled to the island of St. Helena in the middle of nowhere, where he eventually died. But there is a story circling around that Napoleon never actually went to the island in the first place. Hear me out before calling me crazy. This story originates from a Frenchman named Omersa, who lived not long after Napoleon, and he claimed to have legitimate proof that it was actually a Napoleon lookalike named François-Eugène Robot who went to the island instead of him, as he was known to have ties with Napoleon himself and would make the perfect duplicate for this elaborate plan. The story later states that Napoleon grew a beard on his face to hide in public. That's the part I find hard to believe. No way that baby face can grow a beard. Anyway, instead of St. Helena, Napoleon traveled a lot closer to home, to the city of Verona in Italy, where he would open a small shop and sell probably just about anything to unsuspecting tourists. The part of the story in which Napoleon dies is just as cool. In 1823, the bearded Napoleon tries to sneak inside of the French imperial palace, where his son sat on the throne. The palace was obviously well guarded, and Napoleon was caught not long after entering. Well known for his stubbornness, Napoleon refuses to identify himself when asked by the French guards, who then decide to shoot him on the spot. Napoleon dies right away, and his fake beard probably falls off. If you are enjoying the video so far, hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It truly means a lot, so thank you. I'm sorry about that. Let's continue. Number 5. Russia runs out of vodka. A sentence you thought you would never hear, but there you go. This story starts on May 7th, 1945. Nazi Germany officially surrenders to the Allied forces, marking the end of World War II. The news spread like wildfire. The rough days of battle are finally over, and families are reunited. What does this mean for Russia? Party time. And victory, of course, but the main focus was definitely on celebrating. And boy, did the Russians show us how to do it. The celebrations began at 1 in the morning when the official announcement came through. So according to tradition, the Russian people started to devour bottles of vodka all across the country. Sorry about that. Less than 24 hours later, just before midnight on the very same day, Russia faces another huge crisis. Not as big as a war crisis, but something extremely important for them. Outraged Russian citizens started to complain about not being able to buy their favorite booze. And just like that, Russia, vodka's greatest ally and dearest friend, ran out of it completely. Unimaginable to say the least, but indeed a true story worth telling. If you enjoyed this video and made it to the end, check out some of our previous ones, like this one where we talk about fascinating unsolved mysteries, such as D.B. Cooper and the escape from Alcatraz. Take a shot at solving them yourself. Please subscribe to the channel as it helps us out a lot, like the video, and that's a wrap for today.